to another episode of So What Is Your Point? Today, Steve and I are talking about how to stay top of mind. Now, what does that really mean? That just means that when you meet various people, be it customers, potential customers, prospects, or anyone you want to stay in touch with in your business, you want to be well known and remembered and be on the top of their minds. So, Steve, one of the challenges is that today we find that people are bombarded with so much information and they have so much in their inbox, so much in social media that it becomes overwhelming to many people and they just shut off. So there's a big challenge with getting noticed and staying connected.
Right. I don't know what the statistics are, but I've heard from anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 marketing messages are thrown at us each day. And that can be a lot of things, from signs to commercials to emails and whatever, text messages and whatever have you.
And now it seems like it's even more challenging with the pandemic on, that everyone is working from home, or a lot of people are working from home anyway. And it's important to try to keep connected with folks, and because you are not able to go see them or go on a sales call or what have you, so that staying connected is even more important than ever before.
Right. And I think one of the challenges is when we try to automate staying connected, we actually depersonalize it. And if you really want to be effective in staying connected, I think you really need to personalize your connections. You need to send, let's say, emails or text messages that are personal, not just an email blast.
Right, right. And we have placed a lot of importance on really keeping in touch with our customers, especially since we have this disconnect with them during the pandemic. And if we're not staying in touch with our customers, our competition probably is, and we might find that we're losing business because we are not connecting.
And that's the real challenge.
Yeah, you'd hate to see all of a sudden your best customer leave, and that is a problem.
That is.
So how can we begin increasing our connections with our audience? Let's just call them our audience.
Sure.
And we've come up with 6 things that can really help people stay connected. And the most obvious one is utilizing social media. And a lot of people I talk to anyway have really jumped on the LinkedIn bandwagon because it seems like it's a little less unpersonalized. It's more personal, and we have these connections that people, when you meet them, you kind of have a way of connecting a little bit better. I know you're a big LinkedIn user.
Yeah, I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and uh, part of what I've done with that is to create content, uh, short posts, written word posts or videos, and send those out to my connections, just as a value add type thing. But that's
Hmm.
pretty broad. I mean, that's just kind of keeping the name in front of them more than anything else.
Right.
It doesn't really build a relationship.
That's right. It just kind of gets you noticed a little bit.
Right.
And when we first start a relationship with somebody, there's there's like three levels. There's building curiosity,
Hmm.
and then there's taking them to the next level, which is really enlightening them
Hmm.
about what we do, how we do it, some of those details. And then finally, there's the commitment phase, where you get them to actually do business with you. But we do have to have some way to build that initial curiosity. And that curiosity is really important.
And that's where social media is useful.
Right, right. The second one is to start and develop an email list. Um, One of the biggest things with email lists is people don't get started in doing it. They just procrastinate about it, or they don't know how to do it. We have a lot of free resources where people can get an email list started. MailChimp or Mailer Lite, I believe, are both free, and you can build lists um, and do email blasts on a regular basis for free till you get your list really going. And I think, I don't know what the MailChimp limit is, but I think it's a couple thousand, 2,000, I believe, to have people on your mailing list. So that's a good
Mhm.
way to get started. And then above 2,000, I think you start to pay. So um, those are great ways to get started. And we don't get started fast enough.
Right, right.
The next way is to begin a regular calling campaign. Now, it doesn't have to be cold calls. It can be just connecting with people that maybe you already know, and just regular, certainly regular customers. But and you can do cold calling. Cold calling still is a very big thing out there. You can, if you feel comfortable in making cold calls, cold call. If you don't, there's other ways you can do it. One of the ways I've done it in the past is if I've been on a webinar or a Zoom call and I see these little squares of people's names, I found out their name through Facebook, and then sent them a email and just said, "Hey, we're in the same group. Would love to have a chance to chat with you." And it can be that simple. And many people are very open to that, especially if you already have some type of connection.
Yeah, that
Uh,
connection is really important. The other, several other things you can think about. If you have a spreadsheet and you say, I'm going to call my key customers once a month, you can track how you're doing on that and just make a call and say, hey, was, was thinking about you, and I had this idea, or I had this article I wanted to send you. Um, just thinking about them and keeping up with what's going on in their lives uh, can be a really valuable aspect of continuing to build and maintain a relationship.
right,
But the
right,
other thing is, really effective leaders and salespeople will handwrite a note uh, to people and say, thank you for doing this, or I saw you did that, or whatever have you, and just do a note. So you got to keep track of your people and what they're doing. But a handwritten note, and one of the things that I've used in the past that are really effective is I put my notes in uh, what the brand is Accessories. You've seen the Accessories posters around office places like Teamwork and you know whatever have you. But they also make these little uh, 5 by 4 by 5 type cards with a with one of those posters on them that blank on the inside, and you can write notes on them. And I have found that people, after I've sent them one of those, I see those tacked up on their bulletin boards or on a file cabinet, as because they like the picture. But when they look at the picture, what are they thinking of? who sent them the picture,
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
whose notes on the inside of that picture. So things like
Yes.
that can be really useful as part of your quote unquote calling campaign to keep in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was in the computer repair business, I used to send out little postcards that had 5 tips for keeping your computer running better, or something along that line.
Hmm.
And they would keep it on the refrigerator or on their desk, and uh, I would get calls 2 and 3 years later, which is pretty fantastic. I mean, it
Hmm.
is a way to keep your name top of mind.
Right.
And the next one we have is creating a webinar and giving it regularly, and share some of your knowledge about your specialty. So often uh, we don't think about webinars. We think, oh, well, I don't really have something to share, or I don't um, have something prepared to give a webinar on. Well, now with Zoom, you can really create your own little webinar, and it's real easy to do. And just share some of your knowledge. Just talk about 3 things, something really simple, and keep it fairly short, and just share some of your knowledge. And then with your mailing list that you've created, invite people to come to your webinar and send them the link, and you'll have some people starting to interact with you.
Right. The the issue with the webinars to me is that when we give a webinar, there's only going to be a small population that is interested in it right now. So you need to give them regularly, and you can give the same one over and over again with maybe a few little tweaks just to keep it fresh, because another set of your market might be ready for it at that point in time.
Yeah.
You could also record them and make them kind of evergreen and just play them on a regular basis, or make them available at any time that people could do it. So you might have a series of webinars that people can look at um, when
And the
when they
important
have
thing,
insomnia or whatever have you.
yeah, yeah. And the important thing also is to have a call to action at the end of your webinar that invites them to connect with you. Schedule a call, schedule uh, something to have a little call to action at the end, so that you're really inviting them to connect with you more thoroughly.
Well, one of the things I found is just to invite somebody to call you is kind of a passive call to action.
Okay.
But one of the things that you could do is have the call be focused on something that is of value to them. So let's say that they're in the middle of they're getting ready to go on a job search, and my call to action might be, call me for a free resume review.
Hmm.
Now that they're calling for a purpose at this point in time.
Right.
You might need to be creative about your purpose, but you want the call to be something that they're gonna accomplish something. They know that they're going to get something as a result of the call, not just a sales pitch.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody wants to be sold.
Right.
They want to decide to buy. So
Okay.
absolutely. Um, oops. And the next thing is to create a database or spreadsheet to remind you when you've connected and when you want to connect again. So you can use a calendar, you can use whatever way that you want to remind you that, hey, it's time to reconnect with someone. So you're not connecting too soon, but not too long either. So
Yeah.
that's a great thing to keep a little tickler file to contact people again.
Yeah, there's a lot of software out there that can be your uh, database of customers, And whenever you make a call, you just type in what you talked about
Mhm.
and schedule your next call. And it'll automatically remind you when your next call is coming up.
Right, right. Absolutely. And then another way is to actually introduce them to someone by a referral. And, you know, that's one way to really connect with people and take your relationship to another level. If you send somebody a referral, they're going to remember you, and especially if it turns into business, uh, it's really memorable. And they may do the same for you. So this is just something you want to think about, because everybody is looking for business nowadays, and it's a great way to um, improve the connection that you have with someone.
And the interesting thing about the referral aspect of it, two people, actually three people actually benefit. The person you're referring to, the person you referred them to, and yourself.
Right, right,
So keeping that in mind, if let's say I have a person who's looking for a job and they see that I'm connected with somebody on LinkedIn that might be a good person for them to talk to. I'll reach out to the person on LinkedIn and say, hey, I've got this individual who would really love to talk to you about how you got into how you got into this career. Would you be willing to talk to them? More than likely, they're going to say sure. So I make the introductions, and they begin to build a relationship. Before I give the person that I'm referring, the person looking for the job, I do a little bit of coaching. You know, don't go in and say, I need a job. Start talking to the person about how they got into the career and what they like about it, and tell me about your company and the culture of the company and those kinds of things. And what kind of advice would you give somebody like me if I wanted to get into this organization or this industry? So the thing you need to do is keep those things um, professional, but also do a little bit of coaching in the process. So now I've coached somebody; they feel that I've given them some value, and they're going to go talk to somebody, and hopefully that person that gets value from the conversation as well. So use doing that. Don't just say, here's a person you can go talk to. Set the stage. Make it valuable for everyone.
right. Yeah, those are great ideas. Okay, so start with one of these 6 suggestions and then add more as time goes on. One of the things that people often ask is, well, I want to get started with social media. I don't have anything going with any of them. So do I just start with all of them all at once? The best advice we can offer is start with one and figure out how to make that successful, and then add a second one and a third one. Um, that kind of builds on your success, so you don't become overwhelmed with trying to do 5 or 6 of them all at once.
Right.
So we hope these have been helpful to you, and go out and apply them. That's the best way to learn how to do it and figure it out. We hope you enjoyed this episode of So What Is Your Point? And we'll look forward to seeing you next week.